minutes. Our packet.
Okay, Joan?
Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Holly Village Parks here at Cyclone Park for August 7th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
I always was.
Roll call, please.
Hutchins,
Here.
McCanny, Summers, Peltonen,
Here.
Hamilton,
Here.
Cole,
Here.
Kyer.
Here.
I entertain a motion to excuse Chris Summers from tonight's meeting. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Chris Summers from tonight's meeting, as well as excuse the tardy of Sarah McCaney. She is on her way.
I will second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Agenda changes and approval of the agenda. Does anybody have anything to add or delete to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Sarah had said she needs to add on holidays, so we can make that.
So that'd be under general business too?
Exactly. Yeah, general business too, we'll do holidays.
Okay.
I support that.
Roll call, please.
Hutchins,
Yes.
Peltonen,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
and Kyer.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Approval of the minutes for June 5th, 2024.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes for June 5th, 2024.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Public comment not related to the agenda. Members of the public can address the commission once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a minimum of 4 minutes for items not on the agenda. Commission may extend this time with a vote. Prior to addressing the commission, members of this public shall give their name and address for the record. Any public comment? Seeing none, hearing none. Moving right along to old business. Urban Community Forestry Program grant application.
That's going to be me. And I have a little bit of a dilemma here because some of the information I needed to ask Brian, and he's not here. The other part of this is this grant that I think you have the handbook in front of you. This grant is for, the one that I was originally talking about is for a large amount of money. The request must be between $10,000 and $225,000. Okay, there's another grant that just came out, which is basically the same application, but it's for less money. We can get between $5,000 and $30,000 with this grant. Same grant, basically the same application. The advantage to the one with more money is, the disadvantage is that it's due by August 31st. And Brian's not here. And I need to get some quotes for trees and things like that. I don't know how many trees you want to put in. I think what we were originally looking for is to put some trees in Lakeside Park. And I can't imagine that we would need $225,000 to do that. Now, the other grant I might be repeating myself, but it is not due until September 30th. The one that I'm thinking that we're leaning towards, the one that is between $5,000 and $30,000. The advantage of the larger grant, which I'm leaning towards maybe putting off for a year, is, and both grants, this is the rule for both grants. Only a portion of the village has to be in the CDBG low-income area. The grants can be, as long as a portion of your village is in there, you can apply for either one of these grants, and you can use either one of these grants in any park in your area. It doesn't have to be just in the low-income parks, which is Ganshaw and Lakeside. The larger amount of money grant, I was thinking, would be appropriate for us to apply for next year, because we can even replace trees along the village property on the sides of the streets. We can use it for that. We can use it when we move the depot building to its new location, which isn't going to happen until past the time that this grant application is due. So we can really use it at Waterworks Park and any of the parks in the village. It's more money. The one that's less money that I would rather use for just Ganshaw Park, we have more time. We have an extended amount of time to get this in. Most of what both of these grants want to do is make sure that there's an income that the low-income people in our community are going to have an opportunity to gain something from what we do here. And I'm feeling that they will, because their kids can use the park, and we're putting in trees, and they're going to get some shade, and it's going to be a lot nicer down there. But I'm thinking that we just should use the lesser amount of money. Now, what do you think?
For discussion, I agree.
For discussion
I don't
right
think we're
now.
looking at planting that many. We wanted to replace originally trees at Lakeside Park to give shade to the clay structure. So for that one, I wouldn't think it would be more than 30,000. That does give us time to look at for the following year, like you said.
And I need to know what kind of trees you want. And I've got to get quotes from some of the people that Brian uses to be able to put those trees in. Now, this grant money will be coming to us, if we get it, it will be coming to us in October, which is a perfect time to plant trees. So I was going to go over the whole application and things like that tonight, but I don't know that we really need to do that. Maybe I have a couple of questions here. And you can help me fill in some of this. And then we'll go for the lesser grant and give us more time to talk to Brian when he gets back. We also need a couple of numbers that I don't have. First of all, one of the questions is, how did you determine the estimated number of people to be impacted by this project? I think that I'm going to use the estimate in the last census. Because however many people are in this village are all going to be impacted by this project. The grant funds requested, we don't know yet until we get the quotes for the number of trees we want and what trees we do want. The other, it's really all the questions that I have for you guys. See, the larger amount is to plant, for instance, you can plant 200 trees, you can have 40,000 street trees in inventory and train 20 volunteer foresters. And we can also use some of both of these grants to, I know I'm all over the place with this because I don't really know which one to use. Years ago, we had somebody that was a parks director. It was a $5,000 a year position, and she basically checked the bathrooms, locked the parks at night, did any of those little bits of things, made sure the trash cans were empty. This $225,000 grant would allow us to establish that position again and we have 5 years. So we could have somebody basically maintaining some of the things in the park, reduce the DDA budget, the DPW budget by a number of hours and use this grant money to pay some of the people and some of the bills that it's taken out of parks money for the lawn mowing and different things like that. So I think we're just going to go with the lesser amount, if that's okay, and you guys.
Is it a
it's all right.
matching grant or?
No, neither one of these are matching grants. There is a third grant, however, that is a matching grant that we might want to look at when we have more time to delve into things like whether or not we're going to get a handicap playscape, which we're also working on. So I think the larger grant should be used in the larger appropriation of funds for more of our municipalities. And the smaller one, I'm just going to have to wait to talk to Brian about some of the numbers and what kind of trees you want. You know, there's a list of some things that Brian gave me a while back, but most of those are smaller trees like red buds and pear trees, things like that. Those aren't good shade trees. We want shade, right? And we
Yes.
have basically no shade, and what we're probably going to get is maybe a 10 or 15 foot tall tree, which isn't going to provide shade for quite some time, but, 15 years, we might have a pretty good tree. So,
You gotta
I
start
guess,
somewhere.
let's include this in next month's agenda as well, under old business, and if you come up with any ideas, what do you think?
I think you've done a fabulous job, and
Yeah,
I
thank you
appreciate
so
all
much.
the research that you've done on this,
Oh,
absolutely.
it's been so much fun. No, it has. I'm amazed at the things. This larger grant will even cover classes that we could give to people on trees, nature, bugs, fish. I mean, it's all this DNR stuff, and it opens up a lot of opportunities, even possibly between the township and the village, to be able to put on classes for the Master Gardener program and some of those things. So I'm just going to go with the lower one as long as it's okay with you guys. Do we have to vote on that or anything?
Maybe when we bring it up next month
Yeah, I
would be a
think-
more appropriate time.
Yeah, I think she's just looking for consensus. Do we all consent to that direction?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Yep. Okay, thanks a lot. Let's move on to budget items. Anybody have any input on budget items?
I know we talked about, Loom has given us an additional, I think it's $7,000 in our budget this year to help with some playground equipment. Mr. Walker had worked together with them on that. So I've got some ideas for because we want to add something more toddler friendly into Lakeside, because really that playscape is more geared towards 5 to 12. Where we don't really have anything for the little ones, and the top playground we did have at Carl Richter was torn down. So instead of like a big playscape, Mr. Walker and I had talked about doing kind of freestanding items. So I've got some stuff if you guys want to look through it, where, it's like those little, if you guys have been to the Township Beach, where you guys used to have the little things where you could ride on and they can rock back and forth on them. And they're just smaller pieces of equipment, around $1,000. I think we could get probably more bang for our buck with that than building another playscape, essentially. Those run between like 15 and 20.
I know, but if we can, and we should get both, because if we can get Easter seals to pay for them, I'm working on that one. If we can
That
get
would be
Easter
awesome.
seals to
Well, and that's why I was
pay for
looking up like even handicapped accessible swings, because I know that we want to work towards that, to have more ADA accessible things. Those swings are like about between $2,000 and $3,000, which really is not that terrible to allow, that section of our people in this town that have children that have disabilities.
One comment on the spring-loaded toys. We had some at the beach, and then somebody bought some new ones, and there's no face guards on those, and the kids get rocking, and they smash their face against the back of the head of the ride.
Yeah,
So
that's what, well, yours are like metal. These ones are more like the hardened plastic and stuff.
That's the biggest thing we had. Ours were aluminum,
Right.
yeah.
And, you know, little teeter-totters and stuff like that, where we're not building a whole new playground, but kind of augmenting what's already
We used
there.
to have some stuff like that at Lakeside
Right.
At
years
the
ago.
beach.
And we had some things like that at Crapo too. Are they still there?
No. No, there's just like the freestanding structure that's there. There are like there's a little drum set that's kind of its own freestanding thing, but that's really the only thing there.
You would know, you have a little
Yeah.
child. Yeah. What's this? This square?
A tunnel.
Oh, it's a
The
little
tunnel
tunnel.
is nice.
Yeah, like tunnels, you know, that kind of stuff.
They can safely climb.
So we're gonna be able to use the money that we're getting from Lume, is that how you say it?
Just loom, I believe.
And how
Because,
much
yeah,
are we
they
getting
gave
from
us
them?
7, I'll have to double check with Mr. Walker, but I know our budget for this year is $27,000, and I believe 7 of that was dedicated from Loom to go
Okay.
towards playground equipment.
These things are awesome.
Well, that's just, you know, they're one thing, but it's just to give you guys a general idea of maybe to go that way instead of an actual playground.
And that's what's nice about spreading them out, gives everybody a chance to use them.
Right.
You know, instead of combining them all.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of open area already in that playscape, like in Lakeside, that, yeah, you could place one of these in there and it's not
Yeah.
gonna make it too crowded. So that was just my idea. I know that that's something that we were working on.
I think it's a super good idea.
Yeah.
In my travels around, we have to address the gazebo at Ganshaw. It's in pretty bad shape.
Yeah,
A lot of the wood's rotten, it should be replaced, and DPW should discuss about making it maintenance-free, you know, using different
like that Trex or whatever else.
stuff like that.
I know Sarah has brought that up in the past, covering
Yeah,
the.
it's pretty bad.
handrails. Yeah.
Also, the bridge at Waterworks,
Yes.
replace the boards.
Well, you did vote to do that, so
Yeah.
hopefully Brian will have a
Yep.
report for us on replacing boards in the parking lot at the boat launch, because we also voted to improve that.
Yeah, we'll have to get some bids on the gazebo. You know, we'll want to tear up, but we want to look at maintenance-free on that, you know. Any other discussion about budget?
Do we want to vote?
Sarah.
Do we want to vote on the playground stuff?
Is there really just some time for budget discussion? We were discussing tot lot toys, right, and stuff. We got a presentation on that from Amber,
Great.
so she's gonna get some bids on that.
We were just
We gotta
basically
get some
talking
bids on
about,
that.
like, instead of doing a whole tot playground, adding some standalone features, maybe to the part that's already at Lakeside. Cheaper, basically, to do that. It's a cheaper option than just trying to build a whole new
Yes.
tot lot.
I agree. Is it an affordable option for us with our current budget?
Yeah, we were talking about that too, where Loom gave us $7,000 this year towards like playground equipment. And so, I mean, that was just a cursory research of those things. Obviously, we're gonna have to pay like we did with the other playground, where like the DPW's time to install them and stuff. But again, I mean, a tunnel, you just kind of place there. So hopefully it shouldn't be.
And pending quotes on Ganshaw Park gazebo and things with that, maybe we can match what Loom has and at least get the handicap accessible swing too.
Do you have any input on budget?
On that topic specifically?
Yeah.
Just looking at this, my first impression is I like the first 3 pages, which are the spring toys. I know that we were deliberately trying to get away from the areas where kids can climb into and not be seen from the road or vandalized. So I'm not a big fan of adding tunnels,
Okay.
because we had so many problems with the vandalism inside the tunnels in
I
the
thought
last
about the
one.
same, yeah, I considered the same things, but
I like the idea of doing à la carte items instead of trying to save up or get a grant for a big area. Not related to that, is that okay, or are we just talking about that?
We
We're
just
talking
got
about
finished
budget.
discussing it down the line.
Okay, go ahead.
Gail,
What?
you have any comments about budget items?
No.
Raisa?
no.
Okay. We'll bring some more information to the next meeting, with the bids and find out what's going on. Okay, let's move on to presentation. DDA Nick Klemp.
I'm gonna sit over here, just so we understand a little.
Get you situated.
Hopefully. All right. Just kind of on a side note, because you talked about the gazebo, I do know that we've looked at that as well with the updates to Ganshaw Park, and we have someone an organization that's going to be looking into donating some money to help update the gazebo in those ways that you talked about with the boards that won't rot out and things like that. So we'll, as you guys look at that, we'll let you know a little bit more about that too as we hear more, so. Perfect. Someone within the DDA that is doing that, so. The first thing I want to talk about that's on there is you have it on here as the flower beautification, but it's really the design committee would like to do a Adopt a Garden program. And they identified 39 flower-type gardens that are within the DDA district. And they would like to get residents, businesses, organizations, any type of group like that would like to come along and adopt one of those beds and to help take care of it, keep it weeded, keeping it fresh, keeping it clean, even having like a form that they can fill out if they want to add flowers to get approved to add things to it. And just helping kind of keeping our flower beds, obviously specifically within the DDA, looking nice, keeping fresh. And of those beds that they found, 13 of them are within the parks that are in the DDA. And so we just wanted to check if you thought that would be a good idea, if you guys would want to have us come alongside, have our Adopt a Garden come alongside those 13 areas as well. And, just check to think if you thought that was a good idea, or, make sure that you didn't maybe already have a plan for helping, keeping those updated already. We already have quite a few people that are jumping on board that want to help out and doing that. And so, like I said, there's about 13 that are within the parks. There's 3 they identified in Ganshaw, which is where the sign is, around the gazebo and the H. In Crapo, the parking lot areas, the sign around the shelter, and then the large, that's the lot one as well, the large one with the large trees in it. And then Waterworks, the sign, the park info sign, and then the Bridgestone, and then kind of around where the old mill used to be. And so that's basically it. They're just wanting to, maybe connect with the community, help them connect with, giving back into their community. And we just thought, with those being within the parks, we wanted to check and make sure that those, you didn't have some other plan, or, didn't really think that was a good idea to be able to do that.
I think the biggest thing we find is getting volunteers to maintain, you know?
100%.
And that's why Oakland County has Adopt a Highway program. It works out pretty good. And I would be in favor of having people adopt into this. You know, there's a lot of people out there that like to do this, and I say let them go ahead. We can join in the program. What do you guys think?
I think it's a great idea. I only saw an experience with some of this before when we used to have Project Pride in the village. They would come along and they would plant in front of the houses on Saginaw Street. They would plant in all those little spaces, which are about 2 feet wide, in front of people's houses. Get it all planted, it looked really nice, and the people that lived in the houses didn't even take care of it. So I'm hoping that if we do something like this, that people will actually dedicate themselves to coming through and doing what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, that's a good point. Part of that as well is having, having us kind of be and oversee that they are being done. We're going to have them actually do contracts, that we're going to take care of this garden. And if we see that it's not being taken care of the way that it should, or, not getting the care it should, then we'll seek someone else to take that spot. Maybe talk to them, make sure nothing, has happened or whatever, but just really kind of keeping an eye on that they are being taken care of. So yeah, because that could be a problem.
No, but it's smart. I think you're holding them accountable with
Yeah.
contracts. I think, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I'd entertain a motion to make a recommendation to council that we join in with the DDA on the Adopt a Flower Garden program. Would somebody like to make the motion? Second.
I will make the motion to have the parks partner with the DDA to create and adopt a garden program that will be overseen by the DDA with approval from parks.
I will second that.
Roll call, please.
Hutchins,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Kyer,
Yes.
Peltonen.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, Nick, let's move on to Ganshaw Park update.
Yeah, so what I'm presenting with this tonight is what the design committee has presented to me and wanting to accomplish with the grant money that is available through the DDA and the plan that they've given for moving forward the grant towards completion. Their goal with this design was to really bring to life the beauty of this park and what it offers with the combination of the trees, the gazebo, all the amenities that we have and will be adding to it as well, and mostly the view of the lake and showing that off, that great view that we have there. And just making a place that even if someone drives by, they'll be able to look and just see that awesome view, as they go by that park and what it has to offer. And so, just as an update with some of those things, we're still planning on putting the newer garbage cans in there and getting rid of the barrels that are there. Adding 2 new park benches that are just like the wrought iron ones that are there already. I'm sure you've noticed we've painted the light poles that are through there. And then also redoing the flower bed around the gazebo. Adding in better soil to help keep the plants there more healthy. Adding some more into that. Redoing the signs so that it's that the gate fold so that you can see it, as you drive down the road, and extending that flower bed around that as well. Adding bushes to the area in front of the electrical box to hide that from the view as well, and then adding trees back in as well. Our plan with the trees is to continue that design, that the memorial trees that are there, that are currently there, using them as an example and being kind of a group of trees, and having 2 more areas of grouped trees in those areas basically where the trees were taken down, those 2 areas there. So that creates 3 areas that will be able to have, people that can go under them, sit under them, picnic there, and then also, have that great view of the lake as they, as you look out through there. Those are the ones in your pictures that were labeled inside park south and north, and having those groups of trees in those 2 areas. Then along with that, we'll continue that tree line of the downtown, continue into the midtown. It's been a long plan of the DDA, and continue that hopefully as we go along north with that, but continue that tree line of the downtown from the south end of the park to the very north end, having those in between the road and the sidewalk, and we're hoping closer to the sidewalk area as the best that we can. And those are the pictures labeled looking north and south that show the pictures from across the road, so you kind of see the line of the trees that go across. For a total of about 18 to 21 trees that we're putting back into the park, and that just depends on, once we get in there along the road, how many exactly we'll be putting through there. Just as we're looking at, as we're kind of going through it, that's the variance a little bit is in that area. And they're going to be a combination of century maples, the non-fruit bearing pear, and a variety of the columnar maple.
What maple?
A columnar.
I'm sorry, what kind? What's that last one?
A columnar maple.
What about red maple?
So the reason they picked these ones, I believe, is that it's a combination of having the nice hardy trees as well as having a mixture of the, color, couple different colors of there.
Did you
So,
say red maple?
I did.
Yeah.
I think some of the memorial trees are red
Are they?
maple.
So have these
let
trees
me
been
look.
purchased? I would like to stay away
No.
from flowering pears. Even in this handout from RISA, from the DNR and the Michigan Urban Community Forestry, they prohibit us from planting flowering pear trees. I would like to keep those out of that park as well.
There's a whole list, there's a thing you can click on in there that gives a whole list of trees that they promote. And I can give you the link to go look at it. Trees that they promote and trees that they are against, and the flowering pear is one of them. You're right.
Yeah, flowering pear, we did lose some native trees, and with keeping with our master plan, we want to keep, trees that are natural habitat and birding trees and things like that. So if we can keep out flowering pear trees in that park, I would. That's where I'm going with it.
Yeah, I have a Bradford pear in my front yard. They're prone to splitting. It's great for wildlife because the birds and the rabbits and the deer eat the little berries, but man, it's a mess until they get them all ate up. They eat them all winter. But that tree in one of my front yard probably is not going to last 5 more years. She'll start splitting and coming down. It's Bradford pear.
Is the idea, Mr. Klump, like the ones along the road are going to be a kind of a more compact tree, and then those in the park are probably going to be bigger shade
Yeah,
trees?
that's exactly the thought of it.
The ones around the road there, we have to watch the power lines.
That's why I was
Yeah,
asking him,
that's why they're
yeah.
gonna be offset.
Obviously, we don't want to get into the same
Yeah.
problems that we had, right?
And
Right.
we also found out we have a high-pressure gas line there, too.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you have to watch the tree that you put in, the root ball, disturbing the high-pressure gas line. So everything looks good till we find out what's underneath it,
Right.
down underneath all through there.
Can you list the name of the trees you were just saying that we wanted to put in again?
Yeah, the century maples, and then the columnar maples.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm saying
I just
that
looked
right.
on that
Columnar.
recommended tree site today,
so.
and both of those trees are listed on the dues.
Yeah, good.
If you want to go into what's listed here is the DNR's recommended trees for community plantings. Just type that in, it'll take you right to it, and
Cool.
it gives a whole list of hundreds of trees.
And it would just maybe be, what we can look at is, because we want to have, we just were looking for like the different color, so it'll just be something along those lines.
I think along with this discussion, the last time that we kind of talked about this is about species of trees, we found out that our tree list basically is about 15 to 20 years old. I think we should make a recommendation tonight to council to reevaluate that in the charter and ordinance so that we can get a new list of trees so that we're not planting invasive trees that were once on our list but now should not be.
Yeah.
I think that's in this DNR's recommended trees for community plantings. It also lists how big the tree is, the number of years that it should live, has a whole bunch of information in there. So, but you're right. You know, we need to not plant trees that aren't going to be good for our community, that we might have to cut down in a few years.
Yeah, it's just a waste.
The biggest thing with reforestation is up to, even with the trees we plant now, is 30 years. That's when
Really?
they hit their peak, they start going down. We have 2 in the beach down there that we cut down. We got 2 more that are going down. What we gotta do in the beach is replant those trees now. Otherwise, you lose the ambiance of the beach. Because in 10 years, those trees will be nice trees, but now we have open space where the old ones were. So we gotta look at reforestation more.
I agree, but you haven't cut all the trees out of that just because
And that's
for
what,
that
with the
reason.
grants you're looking at, the specific different type of grants, we can also use the money to do street trees instead of just the trees in the low-income area, which is Lakeside Park.
Right, I think that I was amazed that we can do street trees.
We've cut down a lot of street trees in the last 30 years.
We sure have.
So did Fenton.
And putting in some of those smaller maples, like a red maple or some of the ones that Nick just brought up, would be an ideal situation for street trees. We don't need sugar maples or silver maples in there like we had before.
They get pretty big.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And then they have big branches that fall down in the middle of the road.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
Well, I have another question about the updates to the park. Speaking of trying to capitalize on the Lakeview, Mr. Clem, do we have any plans at all to clean up the water's edge? Are we having any money allocated at all towards getting rid of the invasive species that are blocking the Lakeview?
So originally, we were going to just do that, but then with the parks bringing in SISMA, so that we're kind of working through them now. So they did have a meeting with SISMA, and so we're just kind of waiting on them now, so.
The only thing we had from that meeting was we wanted to maintain they wanted to know what our future was, what our goal is. We want to see the lake again, you
Yeah.
know? We don't want to put in we want trees that grow up and have a canopy so we still see from 12 to 15 feet down the lake. But SISMA said we can go ahead and mow, brush hog,
Yep.
10 feet on the other side of the split rail fence towards the beach to clean up that area.
Yeah,
And then they're going to make recommendations to us
other ideas to do.
about pointing out what invasives were there to clean up that whole park front there, because it's nasty towards town. It's
Yeah, because
really-
there's like one, I mean, in a way comical, there's a bench that sits there in front of the lake, and it's just a wall of weeds, so, yeah.
So has SISMA already been out?
Yes, they were there last Tuesday, when we were there with DDA.
I didn't realize there was a meeting with you.
Yeah. And they wanted to know what our goals were, and what DDA was doing, and what our goal for that park is. And I said, we have almost a half mile of waterfront property. This is the worst one, so we're gonna start with the worst one first, then move on to Lakeside, go down all the way to the boat launch, and then go back to Waterworks, because we got a little bit left to do at Waterworks. But they're to tell us what should be left there and what should be taken out, recommendations. Because there's a lot of nasty brush here, tangle vine. all kinds of nasty stuff. So we're waiting for them to get with Brian, and they're gonna probably have a presentation here of what is gonna go out and what we should do. We also found out we have two different types of cattails. We have native cattails, and then we have non-native cattails that are invasives. So that's gonna be a future project to kind of restore some of that cattail in the fen. So we gotta take one step at a time. We're gonna do just like waterworks. We start in one area and just keep going until we get it done. If you go down by the BP gas station, there's probably 20 yards of the view of Bevins Lake. The rest is all, you can't see over.
Right.
So if you want to see what it's going to look like, that's what it's going to look like down there.
I am all for SISMA coming in and telling us what we have. I think they're an excellent resource. I'm glad that's why we partnered with them. I was unsure of what our plan was for Ganshaw Park, so I didn't realize
And that's
that
why
was-
we had 6 people from SISMA. We had forestry, we had waterfront, and we had all invasives and stuff like that. To come, they all got down there, and they're all going to come up with a program. This is not a one-time fix. This is something they'll come in, and we can probably get funding for. They'll do it. They got the equipment. They'll come in and do it just like they did at Sorensen Park. They came in with their army.
Who attended this meeting? I didn't know we were having this.
Yeah, I didn't know about that either.
I was unaware that.
I would have
was
come if
taking
I knew
place.
about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely would have been interested.
I think next time, if they are there,
Yeah,
it
well,
would be.
like I say, this was to introduce them to the village.
Sure.
And they're just looking for, what do you guys want to do, you know? And
Was that arranged by DDA, the meeting? Was that arranged by Parks?
It was. we
Who
had- we
who
had-
arranged it? I don't know.
We had SISMA lined up to come in and talk to Brian and stuff. He's gonna,
So DPW.
yeah, he's gonna be our spearhead. He's our contact person
Got
for
it.
all the programs coming in. So we had to start somewhere, so we said, let's get him out here and have him out there.
I think that's a great idea,
Yeah.
but I think to Sarah and Shannon's point is what they're saying is if in the future there are any other meetings like
Right.
that, it may behoove us to have other members of the
Yeah.
Parks
Well, this
Commission
wasn't
there
an
as well.
informational meeting for us. It was an informational meeting for them and to get to know who the contact people are, Brian and Nick. So they have that going for us. And the guy that's on their design thing. So this is the culmination of everything. And then they're going to come back and say, okay, and that's when we'll have our informational meetings. They're going to come in and make a presentation to us and the village council, because all we can do is make a recommendation. It's got to come to us first. So we buy into their program or have questions and answers. So that's going to be our informational meeting with SISMA.
Right, but we'll essentially be partnering with the DDA as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and maybe we'll discuss our grants that we're trying to get, you know, from forestry. So
Right.
we're going to give them, next meeting with SISMA will be a big informational meeting for everybody. And then they'll present that to the village council.
Do we have any estimate on that timeline? Are they out there doing it now, or?
Well, the timeline's going to be, I think, by October or November.
Okay.
It takes a while for all of them to analyze and come out. They'll probably be out a few more times just to look things over closer. And that's where they were just out there to say, hi, you know, here's who we're dealing with, who they're dealing with here. So there was no much information except for this is Holly, and this is the worst part. I figured we start with the worst first, because it ain't gonna get any easier. That part's been nasty for years.
Is there are there any meetings currently
No,
scheduled?
nothing's scheduled. Brian will keep us apprised of when SISMA's going to make the recommendations. They'll be sent to us, then we'll look it over and we'll send our recommendation to council.
Great.
So you guys can ask all your questions. You'll meet all the people that are involved, which is about 6 people. Plus,
From SISMA?
yeah, all their professionals. These people aren't home hobbyists, they all got degrees. So if you got questions about trees or invasives or the waterfront, what you can do and can't do along the water edge, is we can't go out and move any muck. All we can do is go in and brush hog that pathway along there to make it accessible.
What pathway are you talking about?
On the other side of the split rail fence, we can go 10 feet into the lake.
Create a pathway
Yeah, we
along
can-
the lake,
We can bush
along
hog
the
that.
shore.
We can't dig it. So we can, they'd come in with a bush hog and bush hog it, or the DPW will contract the bush hog. But that will clean up a lot of that stuff. It's really close. It's moving into the park. So that's the only thing we really discussed with them is the permits we need. We don't need a permit to do that. So we wanted to find out what we can and can't do, because you start messing around with DNR and water quality, you're in trouble. So we want to find out what can we do just in the meantime and what the project is.
Yeah. Is there is there like a synopsis of the meeting that occurred that could be presented or passed on to the Parks Commissioners, just so we're all kept in the loop? Like the do's and the don'ts and the cans and the cans and the,
Well, that's the only thing we can do right now is mow that 10 feet, bush hog.
Okay.
That's the only thing
and we
we
don't
can
need a
do.
permit?
No, we made that, they made that perfectly clear.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the only thing that came out of the meeting is what we can do right now.
And that meeting was a couple weeks ago?
It was July 30th at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
We did 10 o'clock with DDA.
A couple weeks ago.
And they stayed in to
Last week.
find out what, because they were in the same game plan we're in, if they had any questions of
Yeah.
what was going on.
Yeah. So the answer is, so the DDA grant money is not going to be allocated to that because it sounds like SISMA is very much involved now,
Yeah.
which we didn't know.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
When you say the sign, is it like instead of just one, it's gonna be kind of like a
Yes.
V?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It looked that way, but I just wanted to make clarification.
And I didn't know how to say that, but.
Right.
I'm wondering if some of this grant that I'm applying for, the smaller one, can be used to appropriate money to the DPW for the labor it's going to take to get some of these things in shape, because part of that grant can be used for that purpose.
Nice.
And also at the SISMA meeting, the informational meeting, they should know what they're going to pick up the tab for, or what they'll
Right.
pay for.
Okay.
So that will be part of the informational meeting with SISMA. They'll say, okay, we're going to go and do this, and here's what we're going to be responsible for financially, because there's money there. So
And that meeting is when?
we haven't got a date for
Oh,
that meeting
okay.
yet.
Got it.
Sarah doesn't
Brian
want
will
to
let
miss it.
us know when the meeting with SISMA is.
I thought you didn't, you said that meeting. I thought maybe there was one now.
No, there isn't.
Okay.
There is, we haven't had an informational meeting posted yet from SISMA. We're waiting for them to collect all their information and make a presentation to us.
Well, I know like during our council meeting, when council approved SISMA, we also talked about like what Oakland County can kind of do for us as well, about going and helping with grants, like, you know, questions that we may have, and also things like drawings, which, I mean, this is, you know, these kind of things are fabulous. They're tangible. We can see what they're going to look like, and I think this is kind of what we need for our parks, for us to all have a consensus of like, this is what we would like this to
Yeah.
look like. And we can get help with that essentially versus
Yep.
paying.
And that's why when we get SISMA to come in, they'll tell us what they're going to pick up the tab for and what's available to us at what cost to us and everything else. So we have to get all of our questions here. And we know about the grants that Grace is looking at and stuff like that, and the other grants that are out there. So we can culminate that this is going to be a big pile of pasta, and we're going to get it baked and we're going to get it done.
That's a
So
good way to
information
put it.
meetings are coming up a lot. So if you know, once we do information meetings, there'll probably be, Brian will probably sit there and let us know who's going to discuss what, so we have some questions. And it'll be a very nice meeting. SISMA is a good organization, and it's taxpayers' money. So we might as well take advantage of it. And they're professional people, you know, so. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
I like the number of trees.
18 to 21?
Well,
Yep.
can we just make, because obviously we kind of put the kibosh on flowering trees. So maybe when you do decide the proper trees, if you could come back and tell us so that we,
So the grant needs to be spent out by the end of August.
Really? This August?
And the DDA committee, design committee definitely wants it to be at least 3 species?
Well, that was just kind of the way, because that gives the 3 different, the one had the white color, so if we could just find something else that has that, similar to that.
Can we agree that we would all be okay with it? Anything that followed the guidelines as laid out by this DNR grant program? What is that website?
DNR's recommended trees for community planting.
As long as it's on that list, that
Yeah,
should be able to make that faster or more efficient for you.
There's a lot of trees on that list. And it also told you, says the number of trees. How many trees did you say?
Well, total 18 to 21.
They think you should have 3 different species. If you're planting 16 to 30 trees, 3
Yeah.
different. Any more than that?
3.
4.
Page 12.
Just to keep it,
okay.
just to keep it.
Well, it's biodiversity, right? Like,
Yeah.
we've seen with so many other trees where they get some kind of bug and then they're all wiped out.
Right.
That would be a nightmare.
Yes.
Well,
All the trees
when I was a
And
kid,
it's not flowering trees that are an issue, like a dogwood is beautiful,
Right.
it's just the pears, the flowering pears, because some
It
produce
specifically
fruit, some
says not
don't,
to
but
plant them.
yeah, it
Yeah.
when I was a
specifically
kid,
says
the Dutch
don't
elm
plant
disease
flowers.
hit Detroit. Detroit was a forest. In 5 to 10 years, it was a desert. It was unbelievable what happened to Detroit in the 50s and 60s. And I lost a lot of ash up north here when I had my farm up north at Ashworth. So now.
Is that
everybody's
sufficient
had a
then?
So
As long
that's
as
why, yeah, I think so.
Are we all in agreement on that?
I guess I didn't realize what we were saying, but yeah, that's why we wanted those 3s, because it keeps
They were
that
looking
bright.
for,
Yes.
flowering in different colors and different
I'm
shapes
not
and
opposed
sizes
to
of
flowering,
variety.
we're okay with the variety of
Yeah.
leaves and flowers,
Yeah.
just not the flowering pear trees
So-
that have been put out by the DNR and through many studies that they're not conducive to.
Now, does somebody want to make a motion
Urban
that
trees.
we agree that we like this concept of,
Right, prohibited species, Norway maple, blue spruce, flowering pear. That's on the prohibited species list.
so does somebody want to make a motion that we kind of go along with their presentation from DDA on their
Good.
stuff
Good
tonight,
noticing.
their promotion on this Ganshaw
Forgot all
Park?
about that.
Say it again.
I would entertain a motion about going to accept their presentation tonight and their ideas on Ganshaw Park
Yes.
with the,
Providing the tree
Yeah.
species
Right.
is changed.
including the DNR list of not what to plant.
Yes.
So does somebody want to make that motion?
Go ahead, Gail.
Okay.
I will accept. No.
I will make the motion to approve the
Okay.
presentation on the Ganshaw Park updates from the DDA conditional upon the removal of the flowering pears and that the other trees selected must be on the approval from the Michigan DNR forestry program.
Is there a second?
Support.
Second.
Yeah. Roll call, please.
Hutchins.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Colton.
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes. On page 12 of this, we just got handed out today, there is a prohibited species column here.
Yes.
Flowering
You
pears
should
on
be
it.
aware.
Well, there's more than that. When you get into the website, there's a lot of them that they say no to. What's that one that shoots out the white fuzzy stuff or gets all over the grass?
The
Yeah.
cottonwoods.
That's cottonwood and
Those are
popple.
awful.
And
That's on
silver
there.
popple.
Oh, the controversy of the cottonwood.
Okay, are we ready to move on?
No, we just want to talk about trees. All night.
Okay, let's move on to, Nick, thank you for your information. Let's move on to general business, memorial tree for Robert O'Leary. We have from Carol Hammond here, there's a person that wants to plant, buy and plant a memorial tree for their relative.
Where are we going to put it?
At what park?
I think they're looking for Ganshaw, where the other memorial trees are planted there. It would be along like the north end of the park. There's already some there with some little placards.
Sure, as long as it's not a flowering pear.
Does somebody want to make a motion, we make a recommendation to go ahead and let these people buy and have a tree planted, a memorial tree planted for their relative?
With the marker.
Huh?
It does say they want a marker as
Yeah.
well, but they'll cover the costs.
Yeah. Does anybody want to make a motion for that?
Who's planting it?
Jim Mullen. This is for his uncle.
Oh. I don't see that. Doesn't matter.
My impression is the DPW would plant it and the expense would be covered by the family requesting it.
All right, then I'm going to make a motion to allow a memorial tree for Robert O'Leary to be planted at Ganshaw Park. I guess that's enough, right?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Hutchins,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Hilton,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Motion approved. Let's move on to item 2, under general business, holidays.
Okay, so holidays, the Village Parks Commission annually does Community Play Day for holidays. We also oversee the farm market happening on both days of holidays. And then we also oversee the vintage baseball game. The Community Play Day aspect is coming along fine. It'll be about the same as it was last year, with a few things needing to still be confirmed, but from the calls that I've made and from the information that I've been receiving back, it sounds like a lot of the same groups that were there in the years past will be there again this year. We are going to have some changes to the free hot dog lunch. We'll need to, because it's not that the administration staff that typically help us with that are not going to be available to help us with that. So I do have the manpower covered for it, but we also have to work out getting the sponsorship for it. It's halfway covered right now by villagers, and I'm working out trying to get the other half covered. That's something that Jerry Walker has always done for this event, and he's sort of starting to turn that stuff over.
Do we know
because
what the cost is that we need for that other half?
$275 remaining is how much we still need to come up with.
What about the people on Saginaw Street that are the meat processing place that is now grilling hot dogs
Oh.
in their front yard, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Possibly. So
Yeah.
Villagers usually supplies the hot dogs, but they just don't want to supply all of the expense of supplying the hot dogs. I have to find out, so I did query, what, does that mean that I need $175 worth of hot dogs, or I need just $175 to go to finish paying for the hot dogs that are all coming from the same place? I have to get a little bit more specifics on that. But anyway, there's some legwork to be done on that. That'll be a little bit different this year, the hot dog stand. I do have people lined up for running the hot dog stand in lieu of the administrative staff that usually do it for us. And we're expecting, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got United Calvary Church will be present at Holly Days, First Baptist Church, the Scouts will be there again, Holly Fire Department will be there, Haya will be there, the Coalition will be there, NACVA, they're going to try to be present, I don't have that confirmed yet. Holly Library will be there, Holly Parks will be there, Holly Academy will be there, Onstage Dance Company will be there, and then still waiting to hear back from Holly area schools. So it's very similar to what it was as far as the footprint for that event. The farm market, doing that on Saturday, what we've always told them is on the Saturday, they can't take up as much space as they do on the Sunday. She's asking us if we will allow her to set up along the sidewalk on Broad Street. Do you know if there would be any conflict with that from Nick, from the stuff that you have in Holly Days? Along the sidewalk on Broad Street. That's a footprint that they tried to run a few months back. As well as their area that they use between the tracks. Okay. So if that was the case, then she'll stop turning people away, but otherwise she'll keep it smaller than the Sunday footprint. So I'll tell her that that should probably be fine. Also, because the Coalition is having an event starting there, the color run, while the guys from the market are setting up, I think we should try to arrange to have the shuttles there earlier, especially because we're going to be closing down the road and having people trying to get downtown with the parade. It'd be nice to have the shuttles being able to take people from that area, park their car farther out, and come back. Specifically vendors, get those vendor cars out of there so that they're not interfering also with the color run. Those are just the things to work out for that. And then vintage baseball, we need to make some updates to the field that did not get completed from the last games. We have to get the rest of those poles taken down. All of the poles that have already come down, there's giant holes left there, which proved to be very hazardous for the guys that were trying to play. And also just for people walking back and forth. And then we need to make a request for the generator, again, for the vintage baseball game. I think that's the logistics. Was there anything, since Scott is in the audience, was there anything that I'm forgetting about for the vintage baseball game?
No,
The upcoming games?
It's a 4-game, it's a 4-team tournament, so it's going to be from 10 to about 5, with an all-day thing.
But from the park standpoint,
Not really, I mean, I did talk to Chris earlier on Monday,
Yeah, I passed both of those things on to Brian,
so,
the
yeah, about the poles,
divots.
get the divots, getting
Is that what
those.
you meant by the divots? What was left behind after they took the poles out?
I haven't gone out on the field since, so, but I saw the poles were, there's 3 poles that are down and all the crop members are down,
Okay.
so.
Yeah,
I just-
Brian knows about that.
Yeah.
yeah,
What about the generator? Did you add that to your special events?
we need to do that. Still, it's not on there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't fill out the special event permit, but I did receive the approval notice. So Holly Days has been approved too, FYI.
Yeah, just remind them about the generator.
Yeah. that's the update on holidays.
Do we have like a Village of Holly, like Parks banner? at
We
all?
don't.
No, okay.
We have a Halloween banner that we made up. I think that's the only one we've made up as a commission.
Okay.
Okay, that takes care of that. Let's move on to closing public comment. Anybody want to have a closing public comment?
Oh, Anna Matson, 1509 Northwestern Ave. Can everyone hear me? It's really hard to hear back there, so.
I can hear you.
You guys can go.
Okay.
So I will say I was a little disappointed that the last meeting was canceled very last minute. I actually did show up here, like thinking that it was still going on, because it was pretty hidden, like on the website, that it was canceled. I kind of looked at socials and expecting like an email or something that it was canceled, and didn't see anything. So maybe next time just try to give staff a heads up, or I don't know, just coordinate a little bit better on that so the public knows when the meetings are happening, or if they're canceled. I don't want to like talk too much about this because it's been talked about a lot at other meetings and everything. But obviously the tree issue in Manshaw Park to begin with. I talked to the DDA and I talked to the council extensively about where I thought the failures kind of were with the situation, and I kind of think everyone was at fault in some kind of way.
No, but it's all empty out there.
Parks was at fault
Water too would
because
be nice.
by our ordinance, you guys are supposed to create a yearly tree plan. DDA was at fault because they never came back to you, and I watched every meeting. I went through all the minutes, everything. And DDA said that they were going to come back to you, and they didn't. They never formally voted on it. I think council was at fault because they're supposed to manage everything and oversee everything. And yeah, so staff also had their hand in it. It was just really disheartening. Even more than the trees being cut, it was really disheartening to see a lot of you guys come after each other on the different boards and everything. And it's very common for me to criticize you guys and other boards and the public to criticize you, but to see you guys criticize each other, I think was not good for you guys, and I don't think it was good for our community. So I really think anytime you have relationships or anything, everyone has their part on what went wrong. So I think everyone, the best thing to do is to admit what you did wrong and go from there. And just say, okay, this is what went wrong, we're gonna fix it so it doesn't happen again. So that kind of transparency and accountability will help you guys and it'll help the community going forward. Ms. Kyer said a lot of what I was gonna say. The ordinances, I definitely think need to be updated because like I said, there is a yearly tree plan, but I don't think that's really ever been followed, that Parks is supposed to submit. There's things about Brian being the tree forester and, there's not really, there's arguably no limits to what his role entails. But you guys are supposed to be the tree board, so there's a lot of conflicting things. So I recommend you guys coming together, maybe having all those ordinances printed out. They're really not long. So maybe next meeting you guys can actually just go through them and read them and make a recommendation to council for changes on those ordinances. It is in the ordinances that Parks is in charge of parks, but I think a lesson learned from this situation is I think there needs to be kind of something in writing on how you guys move forward with the DDA and parks, who actually makes the final decision on things. I think that would have avoided a lot of mess, basically. So it's already in the ordinance that Parks is in charge of parks, but maybe there just needs to be a powwow, I don't know if it's even legal or whatever, about doing a joint meeting with DDA, but I really think that this needs to be hashed out so it doesn't happen again. I'm sorry I'm talking a lot, but I want to get there. I also, in terms of the master plan, the Parks has a master plan that was approved by council. I just don't think we really look at it enough or follow it a lot. Every meeting, you guys go through, what budget items we want to do this month, and every month it gets brought up and things kind of change here and there. What I would really like to see, and I think this would be really, really helpful, is if you guys do get drone shots of every park and make your dream list of everything you want on it with public input. Do another survey if you need to do another survey, or multiple, one per park if you need to. And then do a full master plan with these drone shots, because a lot of times you guys have ideas and things get mod podged together at the park. So if you have an overview of everything and it makes sense, then do, oh my gosh, I'm losing the word, where the public comes and brings their input and has public comment, public hearing, do a public hearing, get everyone's advice on it, and then that's your solid plan for the next 5, 10, 20 years even. Then you guys have focus on your budgeted items, and then you'll have a lot of leeway in order to go and get grants. And lastly, I just want to say thank you to Teresa for dealing with all of this grant stuff with the trees. You've been working really hard on it, so I definitely want to say I appreciate you for doing all that.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Yes.
Hello, everybody. Danny Rasberg, 403 Seminole Street here in Holly. I wanted to say thank you to all board members for voting on voting in favor of the Adopted Garden program. I think it's going to be great. I did catch early wind of that. I'm a local landscaper, and I reached out to a lot of the other local landscape companies, and we actually already have 6 people that are owners of landscape companies and tree companies that are ready to pull the trigger on adopting larger size programs. Larger side gardens.
Nice.
It's going to be an awesome program. I'm very excited to help push things forward in the community. And I can't wait to see all of the updates for Ganshaw Park. It's going to be beautiful. I've already seen a lot of people there. Just case in point, a gentleman with his dog throwing a ball where all of the trees were cut down, lots of room there. So I'm excited to see a lot more people using that park. And it is another gateway, coming into our community. To be able to see that lake eventually, like you said, Sarah, to be able to eventually get rid of all of that scrub is going to be phenomenal. Can't wait to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Yes.
Jeez. Hi.
Hello, Ryan Manson, 15091 Western Valley. Just to piggyback on some of the other comments, I think for I can't remember the company that came out with Joe, but the county and the evaluation meeting that y'all and Sarah Shannon had comments about being there. I think it would be important for more of you to be there. Just be careful if there are more than 4 of you. You have a quorum, so you have to have it posted and everything. But it would be great for the next time they come out, maybe like Brook Park or whatever the plan is, to have more of you guys the capability of being there. I think it would help, especially with the situation with Ganshaw and this communication. We have more people there, and you get kind of something solid and planned, and there's not well-intended people that misunderstand, whatever it is, and things happen. And so there'll be an opportunity there to collaborate, come up with a really good plan. Off of what my wife said with the drone shots, I'm sure you could partner with Holly PD. They did a whole thing with a beautiful drone. They have like one of 4 in the state with this high-tech thing. I'm sure they would do the shots extensively or however you need it at no cost. Can't speak for them, but that way, when you get these plans, when they do the presentation, to make some decisions, if you have that, then when you go to do grants, we have more thoughtful plans, and those are more apt to get approved because we do have a very thoughtful plan of what tree, where we want it, here's the cost, things like that. Too many times I've seen we've applied for grants, not this particular board, but just council we've applied, and we don't necessarily have solid plans and costs and things in place, and we've even paid for some of those, and we don't get them. We paid $20,000 to have a grant for it, and we don't get it. Because we have other communities that have more thoughtful plans in place that are more apt to get it. So thank you all for all that you do. Again, Lisa, you've been fighting really hard and long to get these trees and the different grants. Last year you were talking about it. And I think you all made a really good point about the non-invasive trees. getting ordinances updated and looking at that GM progress. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Scott Schlag, 6378 Weatherford Court. Just to piggyback a little bit, baseball, we had a June 22nd tournament. Great feedback for the top clubs in the state of Michigan. They want to make it a yearly tournament just amongst themselves and maybe expand it in the future. The feedback on Cyclone Park is they can't wait to see what the product looks like in the coming years. I have reached out to Danny Rathberg to try to get some actual diagrams or some drawings of a vintage type field. We have the September 8th game, that's our last tournament of the season, and that's it.
Thanks. Any other
Thank
public
you.
comment? Hearing none, let's move on to report staff. That's you, Chris.
Nothing here,
Okay.
except I just want to make sure it's the generators for vintage.
I'm sorry?
The generator that, we now talked to them about from the DPW for vintage baseball. For
Yes.
September 8th.
Where we had it, the first
Okay.
tournament, yep.
Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to board comments.
Wait, hold on, I'm sorry. To clarify, last year, we had it at Crapo Park on Saturday, but I would need it moved over to here on Sunday.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, let's move on for board reports. Gracia?
Well, Gail just made an interesting comment. This is just back to my trees, because, the back part of the cemetery, there's no trees back there. We need some in that spot, too.
Yeah.
I think we talked to Brian, though, the last meeting, and he said that there's not trees there because they're keeping that open for putting graves in, so they don't want to plant the trees until
Right.
after the graves are put in.
Good point.
Well, it's so new too,
Right.
that side of the
Yeah.
cemetery, that, there's room for a tree or two in there.
Yeah, right.
They should be phased in as the cemetery
With-
fills up.
Exactly,
Yep.
I mean, we could put 3 trees back there with no problem, probably,
yeah.
and include it. We'll figure it out.
Yes.
We got time.
Okay, Rachel.
I'm done.
Gail?
Nope. Nothing?
Sarah?
That's it.
I do have a report back from our tribute committee. They are going to be having a boot drive on August 24th. So you'll see the fire department and different volunteers. They are collecting donations to get started on planning and different things for that. They've established a website of www.hollytribute.org. It hasn't fully launched, but that will be their static site where you'll be able to find the names of the people who are on the committee, what they're doing, plans. They'll use that as a space for the public to see. There's a QR code on the flyers that they're passing out that will take you also to that website. They're hoping to be able to start taking in donations. They did get a 501c3 status, so they are a nonprofit.
What's
Do you have
the-
anything else to add to the
The
tribute
main
part?
thing about the boot drive is to get seed money for more projects.
Right.
It's a start.
Yes,
Food
yes.
drive.
They'll
There is,
start
yeah,
somewhere.
yes, that's
In
their
the
start.
ground, collecting money up there, there's something.
Oh,
Money in the boot.
okay.
So that's all I have to report from that.
Great.
Amber?
Yeah, nothing.
I have nothing much to report. It's been a great summer. We're moving right along. And the farmer's market's really great. A lot of people coming from out of town to visit that. And the car show and everything else. We're getting there. One step at a time. And I'm excited about Ganshaw Park and get some of the invasives out of that property. That's going to be nice. Especially when you have professional people telling you or suggesting what to do in our best interest, not theirs. So I'm really happy with SESMA so far. And like I say, we get some information. Our next meeting will be, I can't say our next meeting, they will schedule a information meeting with us. So it ought to be really spectacular. I hope a lot of the public shows up to get some of the information right from them. So that's all I have to report, and I adjourn the meeting at 7:20.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to move
Yeah.
it. We should do that right now. There's somebody